The midday sun hung high over the crowded city square, bright and merciless, casting sharp shadows across the pavement as people hurried past without looking up. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary day, cars honking, street vendors shouting, office workers rushing to lunch, but right in the center of this busy scene stood a thin, pale girl whose presence didn't belong to the rhythm of the city. Her clothes were worn soft with age, her shoes too big, and her hair tangled from nights spent where no child should ever sleep. Her name was Aria Vale, and in her trembling hand lay the only thing she had left in the world, a tiny copper ring her mother gave her before she died. And today, out of hunger so sharp it hurt to breathe, Aria had decided to sell it. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to the world. The ring wasn't worth much. Anyone could see that. It wasn't gold, nor did it carry a gemstone, but Aria cleaned it all morning using water from a public fountain, polishing it with the softest corner of her frayed sleeve. To her, it was priceless because her mother once held it, once wore it, once kissed it and told Aria, "This is your reminder that no matter what happens, you are never empty." But hunger is a powerful thief. It steals choices, pride, and eventually memories if left unchecked. When Aria's stomach twisted again, she closed her hand gently around the ring and whispered an apology to her mother before stepping forward into the sunlit plaza. She picked the wealthiest-looking person she saw, a tall man in an immaculate navy suit, stepping out of a black car with tinted windows. His name was Sebastian Rowan, one of the city's youngest billionaires, though Aria had no idea. She only saw someone who looked like he had enough money to trade for a small meal. She approached him timidly, almost turning away twice before forcing herself to speak. But before she could, she saw him kneel down to tie his shoe, and that was when their eyes met, his filled with surprise, hers filled with fear and determination. Sebastian wasn't used to being approached by anyone except businesspeople, reporters, or photographers. Yet here was a fragile child, standing in front of him with a tiny ring cradled in her palm as though it were something sacred. The city noise seemed to fade when he really looked at her, her thin frame, her cracked lips, the trembling in her hands, and for a moment he forgot about the meeting he was late for. Aria lifted her hand slightly, her voice barely more than a whisper even though the sun blazed down on them. She told him she wanted to sell the ring, that she only needed enough for a sandwich. Her eyes didn't beg, they only held a tired kind of hope he had never seen in an adult, let alone a child. Sebastian expected to see a cheap trinket, something random, something ordinary. But when he looked at the ring, something inside him jolted awake. The copper was worn, but engraved faintly on the inside was a delicate symbol, an intricate swirl forming the letter V. Sebastian knew that symbol. He had seen it before, years ago, etched inside a handmade bracelet given to him by a young volunteer at a children's shelter he used to support. That volunteer was his first love, Marin Vale, a woman with eyes full of kindness and dreams of helping children without families. She vanished from his life one day without explanation, leaving only a short note saying she needed to disappear for a while. He never saw her again. And her last name was Vale. His breath caught as realization unfurled slowly in his chest. The timing. The symbol. The girl's blue eyes that looked so much like Marin's. And the ring. Marin once told him she wore a copper ring that belonged to her mother and grandmother. A living family treasure passed from hand to hand through generations. Sebastian's heart began pounding so loudly that he barely heard the city around him. He took the ring gently, turning it over in his fingers, and the engraving confirmed it. This wasn't just a child asking for food. This girl was connected to a chapter of his life he had never healed from. Aria watched him anxiously, not knowing why he looked stunned, not understanding why his face softened with something that looked like pain. For her, there was no hidden meaning. She was hungry and tired and didn't have the strength to wonder why he cared. She only hoped he would give her enough money to buy bread. But instead of handing her money right away, Sebastian asked softly where her parents were. Aria hesitated before explaining that her mother died 2 years ago after falling sick, and her father, she had never met him. They moved from shelter to shelter until the spaces filled up, and then she simply drifted through the city, living off leftovers, kindness, and courage too big for her little body. The ring, she said, was the last piece of family she had left. The world around Sebastian shifted. He felt as if fate itself had grabbed his shoulders and turned him to face something he was never meant to ignore. He realized he had stepped into this plaza at the exact right time, on the exact right day, to meet a child he was somehow tied to. And deep down, an impossible thought bloomed in his mind, one that made his throat tighten. He asked Daria her mother's full name. She answered quietly, Marin Vale Rowan. Rowan. His own last name. Sebastian felt the air leave his lungs. Marin had disappeared because she was pregnant. She had left him without telling him because she feared her illness would burden him, feared the media attention would crush their child's future. She had gone into hiding to give birth, raising Arya alone until she could no longer fight her sickness. That meant the little girl standing in front of him was his daughter. In that moment, Sebastian didn't see a stranger anymore. He saw a life he never knew existed. A life he should have protected. A life he was meant to love. He didn't tell her right away, not yet. The truth felt too big, too sacred, too overwhelming to place suddenly on her tiny shoulders. But he promised her she would never go hungry again. He took her to a small cafe nearby, letting her eat until she couldn't anymore, watching tears slip down her cheeks as warm food touched her stomach for the first time in days. And as she ate, he held the ring gently, knowing it was not a treasure to be sold, but a treasure that had brought his family back to him. He brought her home that evening, to a house too big and too silent for years. And as sunlight filtered across the marble floors and touched Arya's tired face, he vowed silently that he would give her every joy she had been denied. He would learn to be a father from scratch, and he would keep her mother's memory alive through every act of love. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video. Your support helps Kindness Corner continue spreading warmth and hope through powerful stories. Before you go, please comment, Kindness lives on, to let us know you're still with us. And so, the girl who tried to sell her only treasure for food ended up finding something far more precious: family, love, and a future brighter than the sunlit day that changed everything.